piece is the rod end seal, and this was what began it all.
Absolutely, that was our first product.
Well, we know that dirt is a racer's enemy, and the idea here was that you wanted to keep the dirt out and the grease in.
Exactly.
And by creating this product, you resolved that problem. How did you come up with the creation of this?
Necessity is the mother of invention. And what we did with this product was rod ends on race cars. Everybody washes the race car. Usually they spray a little water on the rod end and they call it good enough. But then they question, how come the car doesn't weigh the same every time you scale it? Well, when I say weigh the same, that means each wheel. The total weight's going to be the same, but the right front wheel might have weighed 27 pounds and now it's weighing 37 pounds. This was a constant problem in my mind, and we were running super modifieds up at Oswego, and chassis setup was really, really important. So to get past this, I would take the whole assembly apart, pull the bolt out, use a cleaner, roll the ball, carefully roll the ball, carefully clean it, put it back together. Now we've got to assemble a car again. A lot of time. Boy, this was driving me crazy. So the result was we thought about the old Fords. Back in Henry Ford day, he had a big boot that went around the knuckle, and that really did a great job, but it wasn't applicable to this. So we had to come up with a whole new design, which is a stainless steel washer, semi-hard, probably 32 to 36 Rockwell, stainless steel, and we put an umbrella on, and when that's placed on either side of the ball, as Carrie pointed out, grease in, dirt out. We found that when we started to scale a car, rather than have the tension of the rod end being bound up with some dirt, it was now clean. It was clean now in the first lap of the race. It was clean and free on the last lap of the race. And therein, where do you want to have your problem, on the first lap or the last lap? I'd rather have no problems at all. So that's how this was born, and it was originally racing, racing, and racing. And then we took it to other places, didn't we, John?
Yes, we took it into the aircraft, agricultural, industrial, marine, just all applications. There's rod ends used in basically everything.
Yeah, it's a push-pull application. It's the history of rod ends. Typically, these in America are called Heim joints. Over in England, they're called Rose joints. There's a reason for it. When the Messerschmitts were shot down in World War II, the Germans already had rod ends. That was one of their items that really was so much better than our control mechanisms. So it was copied. It was copied by the Heim Company out of Milford, Connecticut. It became Heim joints. When it was copied in England, it was done by Rose Manufacturing. In England, these are known as Rose joints. And there is the history of rod end seals. Now, don't push the button. Wait, there's more. There's times that you have to do some special things. John and I were in, where were we? MSI down in North Carolina, and they tried to use our seals, but they were having a problem. The A-arm suspension in the front had been beefed up so much that they had a cup underneath the rod end where it sat in the A-arm. It would collect the dust, and everything that's done on in the desert now is like talcum powder, and it wears everything out in no time. Added to that, go through a puddle, have this dust in the cup. Darn if you weren't wearing this, even with the rod end seal, we couldn't keep it out. It was just an impossible situation. So while we're down there, John takes this sucker and shows it to these guys, where it completely encapsulates the ball and keeps everything out, and darn if it isn't in standard production now.
Yes.
Well, I was going to say, when you have the issue with dirt and dust and grime, it clearly is going to create failure. And nobody wants failure, whether it's in the race cars or in military service. How much more longevity are these machines getting because of the rod end seals and the boots?
Good question. 5 to 10 times. Imagine you've got this down in the belly of a big machine, and it's a push, pull, push, pull. And if this thing stops, you stop pushing, you stop pulling, you don't make production. You may have to be 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours maintenance just to get to this part to replace it. If we can put a seal on it, whether it's the rod end seal or it's the boot, we can improve that, and they've cut their maintenance factor by multiples, just by multiples, so it's great. We also take this same seal and we take it a step further. This is a seal with just one opening. That's for a stud. The other thing that Seals It has done is this is for inspection, and it pulls apart and it shows the ball. We can look at it, do whatever we need to do, and put the seal back on. There's no nuts and bolts to take off, and it's just great. Now, we have, but wait, there's more. We have one more piece, John, if you'd show that elastomeric piece.
With all the rod ends, I mean, typically, there's grease in, dirt out, but also by retaining longevity and function and performance, by protecting the part and giving it its full 100% usage and value with the grease and its mobility, it allows the machines and the race cars to be consistent, to always repeat themselves, and less downtime, less maintenance, less repair.
If only you were just as consistent.
In fact, when it drives the race car, I said the same thing. Go ahead, John, carry on.
And this is, which brings us perfectly, Carrie, into our next piece, because the ones that are a little inconsistent, Seals It has taken the rod end to the next level. The rod end ball is basically mathematically put to maximum 22 degrees of angle and so on and so forth. It doesn't move or flex. Seals It's come out with what they call the elastomeric rod end. And what this rod end is there's a receiver groove, like a snap-ring groove, machined into the boss. Then the rubber and a bushing that has spirals on it to mold the rubber into it. And this part will flex and operate and misalign exactly like the rod end, Carrie, but with the rubber, depending on what grade of rubber, this thing will deflect with 2,000 pounds of pressure up to 100 thousandths of an inch.
Now, haven't you used this on your race car on a Panda rod? I hate to give all your secrets away, but...
Well, you know, from stock cars, you can put them in rear ends to help the rear end go out of square, as we call them, misalign, or bump steer the car. Allows the car to not go into a bind with 4-length radius rods. It allows the transition from the driver's seat when you go into the corner and load up your Jacob's ladders or your suspension components. It allows it to have a softer feel for the driver, so it's not as radical as a change as a rod end does. So a lot of times it gives the driver a little more flexibility.
Exactly. Some of the drivers are using these on the rear suspension on the right rear, and when they step on the brake, it pulls back, and by the right rear going back, it frees the car up going in. When they step on the gas, it's trying to climb forward, and it compresses this seal. It allows the right rear to go forward and increase bite. It's been a very successful and very popular piece in the race car group. We also send it over into agriculture. Let's talk about hydraulic situations. When you have a hydraulic system and it doesn't have a good servo, the feel back to the hand is a shaky one, and it's one that an operator doing all day, what do they call that, carpal tunnel something or other? Well, if you're running a piece of equipment and you've got that all day, imagine what it feels like. By putting this piece in place of some of the connectors, it eliminates some of that vibration and makes a much smoother reaction to the driver. So we've got two saviors here. One, I said savior, two savings. The savings would be that the operator feel he doesn't get that kick back to his hand. And the other part is, to you manufacturers, you don't have to put that big expensive servo in. You can do it with this very inexpensive item. Good way to save some money and make some more profit.
Absolutely. It reduces chatter. We also, one of our biggest sales and users of this product right now is, as you look, it's for the satellite dishes on top of the marine industry out in the oceans.
Yeah,
they
right.
ran rod ends for years, and they would corrode with the sold air and lock up, and the dish would literally not change. Pretty important for navigational. This product did a super job. It also takes the chatter out. So chatter creates fractions, harmonics, fractures, breakage of parts, pieces. Then we even went to the next level. The only big enemy, no matter what rubber product you talk about, is ultraviolet rays. That's your biggest enemy for rubber products. So we even went to the next level and increased the wearing out time, or the maintenance time, by using the outer seal to cover the rod end for the ultraviolet rays, and let the rubber inside, and we almost doubled the life of that piece on the marine industry. So marine, industrial, hey fellows, doing silk screening for shirts, no oil, no lubricants, nothing to contaminate products, nothing to contaminate foods. It does a great job, multiple uses for this.
Anytime we can eliminate wear and tear on products, we've achieved our goal.
Good job, team.
Seals It makes it easy.